Well, the Me Too movement could finally have gone too far, even for many of its supporters. The site Babe.com, which, by the way, no one had ever heard of until last week, published sexual misconduct allegations against a comedian called Aziz Ansari. The piece sought to ride the wave of post-Harvey Weinstein outrage. Instead, most people believe Ansari did nothing wrong, or seem to. HLN anchor Ashley Banfield denounced the accuser, the anonymous one who attacked Ansari, saying that she was trying to ruin a man's career over a bad date. Here's part of it.
You had a bad date. Your date got overly amorous. After protesting his moves, you did not get up and leave right away. You continued to engage in the sexual encounter. What you have done, in my opinion, is appalling. You went to the press with the story of a bad date, and you have potentially destroyed this man's career over it.
Now, Ansari's a big liberal, which may account for some of the defense you're hearing, but still, the ladies at The View even were mad. They worried the story could cripple the Me Too movement long term. Here it is.
So if you're on a date and he's not as good as you thought, you know, and you're uncomfortable, and you go, does that mean stop, get out, go away? Whatever happened to stop, or I'm going to knock you in your nuts?
Nonverbal, it's very tricky.
Yeah.
You're asking a lot. Nonverbal is just too vague. I think you have to be verbal. And once no is established, then it's established.
I'm concerned about what this does to the Me Too movement, and I'm also freaked out about talking about this on television because I think there's going to be a huge backlash.
Again, Aziz Ansari is a liberal. It may account for a lot of this, of course it does, but it still raises interesting points. Kathy Aru is joining us to talk about them. She's the founding publisher of Catalina Magazine. She likes the Babe piece. She joins us tonight. Kathy, thanks for coming on.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I guess what struck me about this is that the woman making these accusations against this man concedes in the body of the piece that she both had sexual contact with him, pretty extensive sexual contact, and never expressed discomfort, displeasure, asked him to stop, never said anything about it. So it's hard to see how that would be assault or anything even in the neighborhood of assault. How is it?
Well, she was trying to let him know, I guess, non-verbally, that she wasn't into the moment, and she didn't realize, like in the 70s, women would slap a guy in the face and get up and leave, and perhaps a new sexual revolution is needed in our country or in the world, and she didn't know that she could actually do that. So women need to be educated, and the Me Too movement is great because they're letting women know you can get up and leave.
Okay, so let me just say, I thought that Ansari came off as creepy in the piece and self-centered and boorish or whatever, but those aren't crimes. They're common, actually.
Right.
But so you're saying that in the 70s, women would have slapped men, but now they won't. So you're saying that despite almost 50 years of nonstop feminist indoctrination of every living American, women have become more passive and less willing to speak up for themselves? How is that? How does that work?
Well, we haven't had sexual revolutions happening every 10 years or every few years. We had the sexual revolution happen in the 70s, and then it kind of was assumed that women knew that they had strength and power. And until the Me Too movement, that hasn't been the case.
So who are these women? I mean, I know a lot of women, live with a lot of women. I don't know any women who would feel uncomfortable saying knock it off if something was going on that they really didn't like. Who are these sort of passive, meek women who you spend time? Well, okay, but is that? But whose fault is that? I mean, I don't want to attack anyone.
The women who published the piece at the Babe magazine. That's why it's getting so much recognition.
So what's your point? That if you don't read my mind, you're a criminal, and I get to destroy your reputation? Is that a good standard?
If you're a guy who's acting a little creepy and the woman's uncomfortable, but you keep going and you're having a great time while the person you're with is obviously miserable, but you're not picking up on it, it's A-okay. And the Me Too movement is letting women know.
Why doesn't the woman just say I'm? Well, but hold on. Why does the woman just say I'm miserable? I don't understand. Is that too much to ask of another human being?
She finally said it. She said it too late, and she said it at Babe.
She wrote this piece. Wait, hold on. She wrote this piece anonymously, and Babe.com was too cowardly to identify her, so he gets smeared, but she hides behind the veil of anonymity. So she's a coward too.
He didn't say it was a lie. He did what he did. So why is that smearing?
Well, she's writing about their sex. I mean, hold on. She's attacking him anonymously in a piece about his sex life.
She's giving the facts. It wasn't an attack. She gave the facts on what happened that night, and it's up to the reader, the person, to say, was he right? Was she right? Was that awkward? So I don't think it was an attack. I think it was simply saying this is what the guy did. What do you think?
It was an attack. But I guess what I'm struck by is you're obviously a professional feminist. I'm definitely not, but I seem to have a higher opinion of women than you do. You seem to think that they're
No, I have a very high
so weak
opinion.
and helpless that it's understandable that they're afraid to say something as simple as, I don't like that.
No, I think they're trying to say it. They're just not saying it in the right way.
How about saying it at all? She didn't say it at all. She didn't say one word. Because I actually think women are adults. You don't, apparently, but I do.
I do
and so
believe
they're
women are
capable of
adults.
saying what
I
they
think
think.
women need to feel more empowered because women are powerful and they need to feel more empowered. And I think thanks to Me Too and for these type of stories, women will know, you know what, I'm not going to let that happen to me. I'm going to speak up. So thank goodness this story was written.
This is also insane. I'm not sure what to say. I should probably stop talking. Kathy, thank you. As always, you are our Sherpa into the weirder regions of the American left, and we're grateful that you are. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, a college advisor has resigned after publicly hoping that a conservative commentator would suffer sexual harassment or assault. Ali Stuckey is a CRTV host and blogs as the Conservative Millennial. Recently, Jeff Bernstein, he's an advisor, or was, for Georgetown Foreign Service Master's Program, tweeted this at Stuckey, quote, wishing you a Me Too moment, maybe then you won't be so insensitive. Bernstein, who sounds horrible, resigned from the advisory board yesterday after threatening Ali Stuckey, who, by the way, joins us right now. Ali, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So, people have suspected for a couple months now that the left is using the Me Too hashtag and the movement as a weapon against its political opponents, but this guy didn't even try and hide it. He just said it.
Exactly, and I think that's one of the many problems with the Me Too moment or the Me Too movement. I take sexual harassment and sexual assault very seriously and its victims very seriously, as everyone does. However, I think one of the fatal flaws of this movement is the weaponization of Me Too, not just against almost all men, but also against conservatives to shame us for our political views. And unfortunately, when I dug a little deeper on Mr. Bernstein, I saw that this was actually a pattern that he had of targeting not just young women, but young conservative women online, making very suggestive and inappropriate and harassing remarks like he made to me. And unfortunately, he is now reaping the repercussions of that kind of tribalism.
Well, he sounds like a total creep. Wishing sexual harassment or assault on you? Is that how you took it? I mean, is that, I'm not misinterpreting his sentiment, am I?
No, that's exactly how I took it. And quite honestly, I was a little bit surprised and confused when I first read it, simply because the tweet that he was replying to that I said was very non-controversial. I simply made the comment that I think that Me Too is a symptom of a broken world and that our world is in need of redemption, far more serious than any fix of taking down the so-called patriarchy or any kind of legal reform that we can possibly do. I actually thought that my tweet meant that I take Me Too very seriously, but he took it upon himself to then wish, I guess, that I was sexually harassed or assaulted, so I would then believe the things that he believes. And it's sad to me that that's where we are in society, that we think that wishing someone harm is an acceptable form of communication and dissent. It's not.
Yeah, so he loves women so much that he's wishing physical harm on an actual woman. It sounds really there are a lot of problems with the American right and with conservatives, but they're not like that. To be that perverse, you really have to be on the left. I mean that, too. I've watched it a long time. Ali, thank you. Great to see you.
Thank you very much.
Well, the Me Too movement continues. It continues to bring down more and more people. As it does so, some are beginning to wonder and raise voices of dissent, warning that the innocent may be having their lives ruined. Last week, Hollywood star Liam Neeson warned that post-Weinstein backlash against sexual harassment is morphing into a witch hunt.
Yes, there is a bit of a witch hunt happening too.
In what sense?
There's some people, famous people, being suddenly accused of touching some girl's knee or something, and suddenly they're being dropped from their program or something.
Heather McDonald is a fellow at the Manhattan Institute and another Me Too skeptic, and she joins us tonight. Heather, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks, Decker.
So where do you think this is going in the Me Too movement at this point?
Well, it's going towards the disappearing of men. We're going to see a wave of new gender quotas throughout the economy on the assumption that if we don't already have proportional representation of men and women across workplaces in science and computing and in entertainment, it's because of gender patriarchies and harassment, which is simply not the case. What we're seeing really, Tucker, is sexual liberation having a nervous breakdown. In the Before sexual liberation hit in the 1950s, you had a set of traditional norms that recognized this basic truth. Men and women are different. It's not social construction. Men and women have different biological drives. Their libidos are different. And we had a set of norms that restrained the male libido, norms of gentlemanliness and courtesy and chivalry. And we had a default for premarital sex for females that was no. And that gave females the power to say yes, but they didn't have to negotiate with the male libido at every instance of some drunken coupling. Sexual liberation threw that all out and said men and women should go mano a mano on the sexual battlefield. They're equal in their desires, equal in their responses to casual sex. And it turns out when you set the default at yes for premarital sex, a lot of women have a hard time negotiating a no. And instead of recognizing that we've sort of screwed up the default settings and are working against biology, women are blaming the patriarchy when the opposite is the case.
Whatever its effects, it has not made women happier the last 50 years. I mean, there's been a longitudinal study on this, and American women have not become happier. I wonder if you destroy men or complete the destruction of men, they're pretty close to being destroyed, I would say. How does it help women exactly? What will be the effect on women?
I think you're going to see a lot of regrets. Why aren't men courting me? And basically, civilization has been created by people with very powerful egos. It is of no relevance to me whether they were male or females. I want a meritocracy. I want people with drive to succeed. And if you have a rule that says powerful men should be out of the picture, I think we are going to reach a civilizational stasis.
Yeah. I mean, this has profound consequences. I don't fully understand all of them, but I can smell it. This is a big deal. Heather, thank you for shedding some light on that.
Thanks, Tucker.